Alright, hello everyone, Luke Smith here. Now, because of Resident Evil Requiem, or Resident Evil 9, comes out on the 27th, because it's a few days away on Friday, I found this article which briefly goes over the history of the Resident Evil games, from the Spencer Mansion incident to Requiem. Obviously, doesn't detail Requiem as much in here because no one's played it. So we're gonna go through and have a look. It's even got the bonus content from the Shadows of Rose in 2037 in here. All right, so the Resident Evil timeline. I'll read this first. The short version: 1998, the T-virus outbreak hits the Spencer Mansion and Raccoon City. Leon, Jill, Claire, and Chris enter the picture. 2004 to 2013, Umbrella collapses. Bioterror spreads across Europe, Africa, and China. Leon becomes a government agent. Wesker dies in a volcano. I wonder, like, because we all know there is a possibility of Resident Evil 5 being remade. Will they go through the same, like, death scene with Wesker, or will they make it less stupid? 2017 to 2021. Ethan Winters fights through mold-based horror that links back to Umbrella's origin. Miranda and Megamycete enter the story. And in 2026, Requiem sends Leon and newcomer Grace Ashcroft back to the ruins of Raccoon City. So we ain't gonna bother reading that bit. We're gonna come down to here. 1998, the Arcade incident and Spencer Mansion. On July 23rd, 1998, I'm just check my recordings quick, 1 second, there you go, that's fine. 1998, the Stars Bravo team goes missing in the Arcade Mountains. Rookie medic Rebecca Chambers survives alongside Billy Cohen, a convict on the run. They discover a facility tied to Umbrella and the T-virus, created by James Marcus and Oswald Spencer. Now, will Spencer be in Requiem? Because we know he died. Like, will his obviously would his body still be preserved, still be saved? We don't know. It might be, possibly. And Billy Cohen. I always wondered what happened to him. Probably won't be answered in Requiem, though. On July 24th, Alpha Team arrives. Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine are among the members. They get trapped inside the Spencer Mansion. Umbrella's betrayal becomes clear when Albert Wesker, their captain, reveals that he's been using them to gather combat data. He unleashes a tyrant and fakes his death. He injects himself with the T-virus and purposely gets attacked by the tyrant so he can come back to life as like a superhuman. I mean, to be fair, he was a bit powerful beforehand because he was basically a part of Project W. He was one of the Wesker children that they experimented on, but then he was super powerful. Why it still matters. This is the origin of the outbreak. Requiem takes place back in this region. The entire Umbrella legacy begins here, so it's going back to its roots. 1998, Raccoon City falls. By September, the virus reaches the city. William Birkin, an Umbrella scientist, injects himself with the G virus and causes a second outbreak. He injects himself with the virus because he got injured by Umbrella's people who wanted to take the G virus back from him. They end up shooting him in the remake of Resident Evil 2. They accidentally shoot him and he just injects himself after they gone off with the virus. Trying to add context because this is like a brief thing what they got on here. Jill Valentine tries to escape the city while being hunted by Nemesis, a bio-weapon that learns and adapts. AI bio-weapon more or less. She survives, but the city doesn't. The US government launches a missile strike. In the original, it was a nuclear a nuclear strike, and it was like a series of airstrikes on the city. Um, but in the remake, it was just one strike, like one nuke got gone off, but it wasn't nuclear, so there wasn't any like radiation. So they changed it a little bit for the remake, hence why Leon and Grace would be able to go back there in Requiem. Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield arrive just as things start to spiral. Leon is a rookie cop. Claire is searching for her brother Chris. They meet Ada Wong, a mysterious operative with unclear agencies. They uncover Umbrella's Nest lab below the police station. I wonder if we're going to get Nest 3 in Requiem. That would be funny. In another corner of the city, civilians try to survive. One of them is Alessa Ashcroft, a journalist featured in Resident Evil Outbreak. Why it still matters. Requiem brings a story back to Raccoon City. The Ashcroft name returns through Grace Ashcroft, her daughter. The ruins of the RPD still hold secrets. See, I'm wondering if there's another secret passage in the RPD that we didn't see in the original Resident Evil 2 remake. Like, there is possibly another lab underneath the lab that got destroyed in the second remake, in the second game. Late 1998, the bigger picture emerges. After Raccoon City is destroyed, the rest of Umbrella's global operations begin to unravel. In Code Veronica, Claire Redfield, by the way, play Code Veronica X because it's got more story in it, and it's the more superior one. Claire Redfield is captured and taken to a facility in the southern hemisphere. She escapes and uncovers new experiments, this time involving the T. Veronica virus. The reason why she was captured because I believe it was a Umbrella facility she was investigating in Paris, I believe, because that was where Chris was after he dealt with the Spencer Mansion incident. He ended up going to the Paris branch of Umbrella to figure out what was going on, and she went there, but she got captured and sent to Rockfort Island. She reconnects with her brother Chris, and the Redfield siblings take on yet another threat. Albert Wesker reappears, now fully superhuman. The game expands the lore significantly by showing the Ashfords' role in Umbrella's founding, and the idea that Umbrella was never just one lab or one city. Umbrella is everywhere, trust me. They kind of missed out Steve Burnside in this because he did. He basically played an important role in Resident Evil Code Veronica X as well. Like I said, this is just a brief story article. Why it still matters. Code Veronica widens the scope of the series. Requiem is about legacy, and Umbrella's legacy is global, messy, and layered in betrayal. See, I'm wondering, maybe we might get a mention of the Ashfords in Requiem, because the Ashford family goes back like years, many years. Like they even helped invent the Umbrella Corporation. Like Alexandra Ashford is like one of the founding members of the Umbrella Corporation back in the 60s, I believe. 2004 to 2013, Bioterror goes global. In 2004, Leon rescues the president's daughter in Spain. He fights Los Illuminados, a cult using a parasite called Las Plagas. No virus this time, but the same goal: control and chaos. Ada Wong resurfaces with her own mission. Leon becomes the hardened agent we see later. Oh, by the way, when they went through that Resident Evil 2 thing a bit earlier on in the article, no mention of Sherry Birkin. She is very important in the series, by the way. Like, how could they not mention Sherry Birkin? Like, seriously, that's William Birkin's daughter. Chris Redfield fights in Africa in 2009. He tracks Wesker to a final confrontation in a volcano. Wesker dies in a volcano. Like, it's a bit stupid, I know. Jill is recovered after being brainwashed and used as a test subject. These events are deeply personal for both of them. In 2013, Resident Evil 6 spans China, Edonia, and the USA. 3 campaigns overlap. Leon, Chris, Ada, and new characters like Jake Mueller, Wesker's son. Like, no mention of Sherry again. Like, seriously, come on, how could you not mention Sherry? Deal with another outbreak, this time involving a C virus, the Carla virus, I think it is. The scale is huge, but the narrative is uneven. Still, it pushes every major character into a final showdown. So, like that, Resident Evil 6 was meant to be like I'm believing meant to be the final Resident Evil game. The way it was like a major blockbuster of a game. I mean, it wasn't good, but it was still like really story ridden. Why it still matters. Leon's arc continues in Requiem. His skills, history and trauma all build up from this period. Resident Evil 6 is flawed, no shit, but it closes arcs and raises the stakes. That's why when you're playing as Leon in Requiem, it's basically Resident Evil 6 Leon style, but when you're playing as Grace, it's like Resident Evil 7 horror style. So it's a good balance. 2017. Also, by the way, why didn't it mention the Umbrella Chronicles segment when Chris and Jill goes to Russia to fully destroy Umbrella back then, and in South America where Leon and Krauser back in 2002 find out that the T virus is still around, and they deal with all that over there. Like, they completely skipped over it in this article, didn't they? They was both very important missions. Right, 2017 to 2001, Le Mold and the Village. Ethan Winters searches for his missing wife in rural Louisiana. He ends up fighting the Baker family, all infected by a mold organism tied to a group called the Connections. Will we know more about the Connections in Requiem? That's another question. The mold is not just a biohazard, it alters memory, perception and biology. Also, it's like a hive mind. Like, once you're infected with mold, basically your mind gets implanted into this like giant mutamycete hive mind that you see in Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village. In 2001, Ethan travels to Western Europe to rescue his daughter. They was already in Western Europe. Chris after rescuing Ethan and Mia at the end of Resident Evil 7, he takes them to Romania in Eastern Europe and basically trains them, shows them how they handle things. So Ethan and Mia has the skills to survive. Like, Ethan doesn't travel there to rescue his daughter. No, his daughter basically gets taken in by Chris, and his wife, who he doesn't know, who Ethan doesn't know, was already taken over by Miranda, ends up being shot. But he only finds out at the end of the game when all the truth is revealed. Mia is still alive, by the way, in that game. It's only like a clone. To rescue his daughter, he learns about Mother Miranda, the cult leader behind the region's horrors. She is also connected to Oswald Spencer, having inspired his ideas for Umbrella decades earlier. The Megamycete, the core of the mold, is revealed as a possible source of everything. It all connect. This is another game that basically connects all the like from the start of the series to the end. Ethan dies stopping the mold. His daughter Rose inherits powers and becomes a target of interest. While it still matters, Miranda's link to Spencer shows that the mold story is not just a side arc. It ties back to the Umbrella mythos. Requiem may follow this thread more than people expect. Again, it might connect everything. Also, at the end of Resident Evil Village, Chris basically goes and says we got to investigate the Europe branch of the BSAA. So we hope that gets sorted out in Requiem. There's a lot of loose ends that needs tying up. 2006 Resident Evil Requiem. Leon returns as the lead character, this time alongside Grace Ashcroft. The game takes place in the destroyed remnants of Raccoon City, and a location called Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center. These settings imply the narrative will revisit the psychological fallout from the original outbreak. I wonder if Leon will get PTSD from this game, like in this story. Capcom has confirmed a February 27th release date. Yes, we know. This game runs on the RE engine and features what the studios call a new level of cinematic realism. Reports suggest flashbacks, hallucinations, and story elements that will blend past and present. The presence of Grace Ashcroft suggests a link back to Alyssa and the outbreak survivors. Whenever she is a daughter, niece, or just shares the surname, it's Alyssa's daughter. We are pretty sure on that. The connection is unlikely to be accidental. Some leaks point to RPD archives and Deep Umbrella files surfacing during the game. That is possibly true. I mean, like, most of the story is probably going to be in like letters and documents in the game. So yeah. There is also speculation that Requiem could set up new character arcs for post-Village developments. Some fans believe we may see references to Rose Winters, hopefully, and an additional background on the BSAA, hopefully, which has grown increasingly selective. If the mold threat is still active in some form, it would make sense for Capcom to bridge both timelines. That's the thing, because I was really hoping that the mold was actually dealt with, but we might get some mold effects in this game. What to play before Requiem? Catching up does not mean playing everything. A selected set of games covers nearly all the history, characters, and locations that Requiem is pulling from. These picks will focus on Leon, Raccoon City, Umbrella's roots, and the threads Capcom keeps circling back to. So, Resident Evil 2 Remake covers Leon, Claire, and the RPD setting essential. So basically, play Resident Evil 2 Remake, Leon's campaign, preferably Leon A and Leon B. Even though they're both the same, it covers everything in there. Resident Evil 4 Remake, which shows Leon's evolution into a hardened operative. Basically play Leon's Resident Evil 4 main game, and not, you can play separate ways if you want, but mostly Leon. However, between 2 and 4, play on Dark Side Chronicles, the what is it, the Leon and Krauser scenarios, because that will fill in some gaps between it as well, and it will give a bit more lore on Krauser for Resident Evil 4. Outbreak lore recap. Watch a video or summary about Alyssa Ashcroft and the civilian perspective during the fall of Raccoon City. Yeah. Or just play Resident Evil Outbreak and just pick Alyssa for it. Also, I'm really hoping that we get to see some of the Outbreak survivors in the game, like the ones that are possibly still alive. Resident Evil Village. For Umbrella's founding myth and mould deeper role. Resident Evil 0 and 1. To understand how Umbrella began and how far the conspiracy goes back. And in Resident Evil 5 and 6, to follow Wesker's downfall and Bioterror escalation. Basically, like, most people are basically playing the Leon games. That's essentially all you need to do. Bonus content 2037 and beyond. Shadows of Rose, a post-Village DLC, takes place over a decade later. Rose Winters explores a dreamlike memory realm connected to the Megamycete. So that's Ethan's daughter. While not confirmed to link to Requiem, the themes of memory, legacy, and altered perception align with the rumoured tone of the next game. If Capcom brings Rose back into the future, this could be the bridge. Now, there is a child in Requiem, like a pale child. As people are saying, "Oh, that's Rose." I don't think it is. I think it is a child that's been experimented on by one of the viruses. Rose in this would only be a child herself, I believe. Like Requiem is set in 2028, and it was basically 7 years ago. Rose was only like a baby, so yeah, she'd be like 7 years old. So I highly doubt she'll be in this. The story, Never Let Go. Whenever you're coming back after years away or just catching up, Resident Evil's lore has layers worth digging through. Requiem is not a clean slate. It is a mirror pointed back at the past, and the more of it you understand, the more powerful that reflection becomes. Yeah, that is it. That is it. So that's basically a explained timeline for the Resident Evil games and the history of Resident Evil. I'll chuck this article in the description so you can give it a little bit of a read yourself and understand it a little bit more. But yeah, tomorrow will be another Nil.Fun selection of games. I'm going to be recording some gameplay after this has gone up for Thursday's video. But yeah, like looking forward to Resident Evil Requiem. Like I said, it's already been ordered. Just like wait until the release date so it can arrive. Hopefully it will arrive on release date and not the day after. But yeah, looking forward to it, and I'll see you guys next time.